Hello, welcome to my channel. This is an angel gown and I want to show how we will be whip stitching the hem. To start off with, let's measure this to make sure that we have enough thread to sew it up. It's 24 centimeters and I'm sewing it up with close on 60 centimeters. Hopefully that should be enough. So working from the wrong side, let's just look quickly at the pattern here. Where am I? Okay, zoom in. There are 4 rows, then the eyelet row or PICOT row, then 3 rows, and then the cast off. And this is a particular pattern. Could have just been a row of garter. Now, when I make my little angel gowns, and I have a fair amount here that I've been sewing up, they all have slightly different patterns, so I like to keep it interesting. And I knit them while watching television, and then I come and sew them up in my office with good lighting. As you can see, even if it was all stocking stitch, when I come down to the hem, having more or less measured so that I know that it will be more or less 7 inches when it's folded over, it's approximately from there to there with 4mm needles and DK yarn. It's approximately 60 rows. Depending on the thickness of the yarn, I add or subtract a few rows. But when I get down to here, so I'll be knitting like that. I then make my row of pattern, and then 4 rows and my row of eyelets, 3 more rows, and then my cast off. So you can see here, you can barely see where it is. Coming close, I can't come in closer because of the light. So yes, that way when I sew it up, I'm pretty sure to have it always the same. So let's zoom back in and zoom. There we go. So I normally sew it up by going in a type of back and forth motion, but this particular one I want to sew it up using the whip stitch. So folding it over, making sure that these are lined up, other than that it mustn't be skew like that or like that. I use 1 pin just to pin it in place to start off. See, it's nice. Nope, didn't do a good job there. It's a little bit tricky. It's a bit better, just so that it doesn't move. Then using a darning needle, let's move this a bit. Using a darning needle with a blunt point, I thread the long tail, working on this row here. I catch it and pull it in place. For want to, I can just go through here and then come out. This first little corner, it's a bit tricky, but I do want to secure it firmly. There. Now you're probably wondering why I have one stitch that is different from the stocking. It's because to stop the edge from curling over, which is what happens when you do stocking stitch, in my stocking stitch, when I come to the end, both sides, so this would be knit, purl, 2 knits on that side, 2 purls, knit, purl. And when you come down to the end, purl, knit, 2 purls, turn over, 2 knits, purl, and then knit. That creates the stocking. Now this hasn't been washed or pressed or anything, and you look how beautifully it lies. So when it comes to sewing it up, it's a little bit tricky, and that is why the pin being in place is so helpful. Now, as a guide, because I've made this little pattern on the side, as a guide, I know that the row that I'm working with lies just above that indentation. So it's super practical. Okay, so normally I would, and there's another video of that, I would go like this, catch that one there, catch this one, go back, catch that one, go back. The trick is to make sure that you are following one stitch and one stitch, one stitch, one stitch, one stitch, one stitch, because even though the cast off is tight and the fabric is springy, you want to keep the hem straight. Otherwise the whole thing is going to twist out of shape, and when you get to the end, you're going to find that you have the wrong stitch count, and then you'll have to do it over. But I want to try in this video a whip stitch, simply because it's very quick and easy. It doesn't look as neat, or it's not as invisible, but it is still quite acceptable. So I'm going to go in there and just pull it out. And then go through there, pull it out. Make sure that you do not go back into the same one. Each one you need to catch a new stitch, and I'm only working with the bottom, see here, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, top, bottom, top. I'm only working with the bottom ones. Otherwise your stitch count is going to be off. So there we go. And I think it's called a whip stitch because you literally pull it and then you whip the thread back. There we go. Have to make sure that I do not go back into the same one as before, and that I'm always using the bottom stitch of this row here. Take out the pin, no longer need that. So this is much quicker than the other method, and we will see the result at the end. I won't even pause the video as I did the other one, simply because this is going so quickly. I'm not pulling very tight. I don't want to disfigure the stocking stitch on the other side. Just enough to keep it in place. See, it comes to an end. See, there we go, a little tug, but not pulling tight, just a little tug. already halfway there. That's how quick it goes. Okay. Always making sure to catch the bottom and a new V on the cast off. Okay, that's the top. There's the bottom. It will feel strange because this gets a little bit twisted, so I just turn it up so like that. Because the cast off is tight, and the main body of the work is very, very flexible. So it feels a bit counterintuitive to be basically pulling the stitch up to meet that one on that side. See, look how far down it is. You'll think, oh, I should go in there. But no. You must keep your stitch count true. Coming to the end. Hopefully I have enough yarn. This gown is a little bit wider than the other ones. Other ones are 22 centimeters. I use my arm when I'm finished my work before I cut the thread. I make it more or less half an arm on the generous side for this particular gown. Make sure I'm not used to doing the whip stitch. It goes so quickly. Okay, so I'm coming to the end and all looks good. Now, when I am casting off, it's a technique of knit one, knit another stitch, and then pass the first stitch over. But as I like this to come in a little bit, I tend to knit the first 2 stitches together. And that does bring in this just a little tiny bit away from the edge. Okay, so here gets a bit tricky. Put it through under there. Once again, I don't want to pull it tight because it will deform it on the other side. Put it through there. Work my way back up. Hasn't come through on the other side. That's looking good. It's not pulling. Okay, so I'm happy with that. And then going underneath, I want to go into the, for want of a better word, the tunnel or the space. Not pulling it too tight. I don't want to warp it. Created between the front of the work and the back of the work. Go one more time. If I want to, for extra measure, I can come back. Not necessary on a garment that's not going to be washed frequently. But just to show you, pull it through and then give it a little tug, and that edge should disappear. So let me zoom out. Okay. What is that? That's the light. So here we have the finished gown. This one I think is a touch smaller than the other, shorter than the other ones. Yeah, just under 7 inches. 18 centimeters. And it will be paired up with a little hat, this little bonnet. It will have a ribbon on it. These articles all first need to be washed, and then a little bow will be added somewhere on the dress. Not too sure where. And there we go. So there's different types of yarn give a different effect. This is quite springy. It's quite shiny as well. This is more some of the, this one still has to be done. It's the last one in the pile. And then once I have a whole lot, I will give them a gentle wash, dry them flat, and then they'll be on their way. Thank you very much for watching. And if you want to know more about the patterns, this one is my own variation of a pattern by Jeannie Murray, and you can find it on Ravelry. And I also belong to some Facebook groups, Handmade with Love for Angels UK and Needles and Hooks for Angels and Preemies, also in a UK group. And I send all my gowns to them, and then they will send them on to the hospitals or the ambulance services, because I also make other angel articles as well. They have many patterns, and you can find a lot of help and advice from that group as well. So yes, but there will be more information in the description. Thank you very much for watching. Have a lovely day. Bye.